two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo.
What is up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? This is your boy, Eddie Collins.
Guys, and this is Justin Brown.
And we are Medium Popcorn Niggas Spoiling Movies. And Justin, helping us break down this fucking batshit crazy movie. Please introduce our guest.
So our guest today is a gentleman I've naturally known for quite some time now through the business of acting. He's a casting director. He's a performer himself.
Yes.
Actually, recently saw him in the Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Good friend of mine, Mr. Tom O'Hare.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen.
Thank you for coming,
very happy
Tom.
to be here. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
And,
Tom,
ahead.
sorry. I was going to ask, as a casting director, do you think that there were some roles in the Brotherhood of the Wolf that were miscast? Because I have some thoughts.
I do. I can't wait to hear all of your guys' thoughts in this movie. This was fun for me to go back over. I have a million thoughts. Like when I was watching it last night, I was like, oh my God, some of this holds up so well. And then some of it not so well and everything. But I think the two roles that I personally would recast would be the main French guy, Fransac.
Oh, yeah.
I would recast him.
Yep.
I think they were looking for somebody like a Christopher Lambert type, and they got it. But he just did not have, number one, he didn't have the chemistry with that French aristocratic woman who was lacking too.
Yeah.
There's
Marianne or whatever.
yeah,
That was,
yeah.
I hated all that.
She looked okay, but I don't know what she was doing. And I know French actors, and they tend to be extraordinary. When you see French actors, they really swing hard for their roles. And I think the majority of the cast did do this. But if I had to recast anyone, it'd be those two. Mark Dacascos might have been the best role he's ever done.
But at the same time, he was wild as a Native American.
Yeah, that was so bad. That was so offensive.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, number one, I think, Justin, we've had this conversation. There are films that have been made not too long ago that would never get made today.
100%.
Yeah.
I think we have one here. And I love this film, and I love the fact that it would never get made today. I mean, and also it's French, so they tend to do whatever they want, but I don't think any French film has ever done this. Like, this is weird by French standards. This is
bad shit.
Yeah,
This is bad shit.
like,
Crazy.
Like all the French that did this, they're like, we have no idea. We do not know what they did. But it's one of the most successful French films in America ever. I mean, it was highly successful.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
It really is. It because people saw this and they're like, what is going on? And another thing, and I should have said this from the start. Don't watch this with American dubbing. Watch it with the French subtitles.
That's exactly how
That's how I watched it too.
Don't hear the French words, because I watched it one time with just American dubbing, and it was terrible. English dubbing, rather.
I don't think it could be worse than what I saw. Because this is a 2.5 hour movie. I saw Justin last night, and I was edited. Like, "Fuck you."
It could have been
"Fuck you."
It could have been edited down. Yep, there was some scenes that beleaguered it. I think there was a whole subplot, i.e., the Catholic Church, that was. I don't know. Like whenever I've explained this film to my friends, I was like, it's like there's this French director. He's got a little cigarette dangling out of his mouth, and he's smoking. He's wearing a beret, and there's like this big cardboard box just full of genres. And he goes in and just throws them on the screen, and ideas on the screen, and wherever they go.
Well, give me the baguette in the genre.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that work though. Like we recently reviewed RRR, and we've seen, like, when you throw a bunch of different genres on screen, it can work as long as you commit to being outrageous. I think the issue for me was, like, the makeup, like I get it, back in the day, like that's how they used to dress up, you know, with all the makeup and everything, but it still looked terrible. I don't know if it's the cinematography, the lighting, but like, you know, I looked at the actress that played Marianne, and she's a beautiful woman, but she looked fucking like a pancake,
right?
Yeah,
with a bunch of sugar on it.
Well,
you know?
I mean, but that because it is a period piece, you know, that is what people used to do, which I don't know why they did that to themselves, because that's god awful.
I mean, wasn't it also to like hide the disease and stuff like that?
Part of it, the pox scars. Yeah.
Yeah.
The heavy makeup. I read this. The heavy makeup was a lot of times people had pox scars for whatever reason, or just bad skin and whatnot. So they would apply pancake makeup to that.
Yeah, because they didn't wash themselves.
They didn't wash themselves correctly too. Yeah. So like,
well, how could you wash yourself properly? They didn't have fucking Dr. Squash back then.
So Roman baths were still in operation in certain places, and the places that had Roman baths, people would still do the baths here and there. But for somewhere along the lines of in European history, because it wasn't everywhere that didn't bathe. I mean, you know, Middle East, even they had a lack of water, they still understood cleanliness a lot better than European nations.
Yeah, but weren't and somebody maybe be like, what are you talking about, Justin? Wasn't it like they use more like oils and things like that, you know, for their skin?
Well,
so
they would cover their smells with perfume, and so like the tradition of a bouquet for a bride, you know, those were fresh flowers to hide the stench of her, you know, like that kind of thing.
That's wild.
It's wild. So yeah, and this comes to Versailles. So they actually shot in Versailles, which blows my mind, but apparently it's not that hard to do, like Woody Allen did a couple years ago when he was doing that French film.
Yeah.
Midnight in Paris, which is good. But I digress. But they shot in Versailles. So in Versailles, apparently there's like, you know, hundreds of rooms and a couple bathrooms. Like they didn't have plumbing and stuff in Versailles. So it was kind of a smelly palace, you know, because they'd have chamber pots and whatnot, and little alcoves where you'd go and do your business and whatnot. So, you know, the plumbing, 20th century amenities and things that was in a land that this was in a time where that did not occur. So I think they were period appropriate with the pancake.
The cake.
Yeah, but they showed like the simpler people who were those like barbarian types, you know, with the Wolverine claws. Which I love.
They kind of reminded me of Vega from Street Fighter.
Yeah. And apparently, I looked on the wiki. This director, he used to do like kung fu style films with his friends. You know?
I mean, you could tell. You could tell. I mean, that's why Mark Dacascos, aka the Iron Chef's grandson or whatever the fuck, that's why he's in this. Because the whole time, like, first of all, he's not Native American, so what's going on here? Second, his French felt fake. I don't know if that was dubbed or like if he just had a really bad coach or just, you know.
But you know, at the same time, because he's a Native American man, everything he said in French is going to be broken.
Yeah,
so you have to give him that.
Yeah. Well, I don't speak French. Do you speak French fluently?
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I know. Because all you had to do in France, when I was in France, all I had to do was do parlez-vous anglais, and most of the time they'd say oui, and then I just taught them in English.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Once you get outside Paris, though, it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah. Nice, Paris, they weren't really fucking with me.
Yeah, I loved Nice. Yeah. Nice was gorgeous.
Never been.
So
never been to France.
Great. If you like seafood, Nice is one of your places.
Okay.
So great seafood, great shellfish.
Terrible cinema apparently. But you know what? This movie was just all over the place because Mark Dacascos, he was the most distracting person in this movie because we had the scene where he's like fighting the wild villagers or whatever, and that one chick is like eye fucking him, but then she ends up being like, get beat up, and then you're like, what is going on? And then he has the hair and he's waving it.
I'm not sure what they were trying to go for with her, other than the fact that she's an epileptic and batshit crazy.
Yeah, she kept popping up. It made no sense.
And she's the daughter of the guy who was taking care of the beast.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what they were trying to do with these wild men. Like at first, I thought they were part of the Romani, the gypsies. You know?
Yeah. That's what I thought. And I thought that
I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think they're just wild people. Because they try to actually do justice to Native Americans in the French way. And if I may, I'd like to kind of speak on that.
Okay.
So the French have this absolute affection for Native Americans, and they've had them for centuries. They this love affair with them. They love to see them and to wax poetic about them and put them on pedestals. And at times that gets, it doesn't tell the truth. And what they call them noble savages. That's
I love these people, and I would just want to. Who you love? Noble savages.
Yeah, that's the term.
That's
that's the term. Noble savages, and it's one of those things where it's like, when you love a different culture so much and you try and emulate it and exalt it, you end up fetishizing it, and they fetishize Native Americans more so than anyone else, and so they really try. Like Mani, the character, is an Iroquois shaman, psychic, mentalist, kung fu expert, last of his tribe.
And he gets taken out with a silver bullet.
He gets taken out with a silver
in
bullet.
the back, because he's sitting there staring at this white woman.
Yes,
because
is she white though? Like,
I thought she was like kind of like a. I know you're not supposed to use this term anymore, but like kind of like a gypsy.
Romani kind of.
So up in the 90s, you could still get away with that. Now it's considered a slur.
Yeah,
but in the 90s, they use that term with abandon. It's one of the. It's like Oriental for Asian, when people use that term, they didn't think it was bad at the time. Now that term has been outgrown. And now we know that the term gypsy is a slur.
Yeah.
So, but I think they were supposed to kind of be the Romani people. But they don't really work as that. They're more like these weird, wild, ancient Celts throwbacks.
Yeah.
I think that
they had the animal headdresses and stuff.
That's the things. Like, I felt like there's just
pagans.
A lot of stuff wasn't clear.
No,
there was just a lot of things that just weren't clear. Also, the fact is, so the main villain, who was very clear today, that guy's the bad guy from the beginning of the movie.
He looked like Lestat from the Interview with the Vampire. He looked crazy.
Very much
Castle,
so.
But he always plays fucking creeps.
Yeah, he does.
Like he's never he's never like a chill person in a movie.
I did some research on this after I watched it, and apparently they offered him the role, and he's like, no. And then they made it crazier and weirder and more horrible. He's like, yes, now I will do it. And like they had to throw in the incestual stuff with his sister and the horrible stuff. And then once they threw in and made him much more of a monster, he's like, now you have my attention.
He's fucking nuts because he's like, I get to rape the sister, and now I have this fucked up arm. It's just like fucking. It was so crazy, and then I thought he was the monster, and then it was like he was controlling.
He is essentially the monster if you think about it,
because he brought the lion from Africa, right?
As a cub, raised it and tortured it and made it. Learn this armor thing. I mean, I guess we're giving this away.
Where
does it matter?
No, that's what we do. We spoil movies.
Okay,
and also this movie came out in fucking
2001.
2001.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, you could tell by the effects. You could
tell. But they weren't great at their time because Lord of the Rings came out in 2001 too. I checked this. They came out in the same year, and the practical effects weren't terrible. The CGI was awful. And it looks like something you'd see on Sci-Fi Channel in like 1999. Like they did not have Weta. They did not have access to the top-notch CGI of the time.
But at the same time, they did have a budget of $29 million,
which was extensive in France for that time.
Yeah, so they could have done something.
The art department had a blast. Because the art department really decked that place out, and it kind of reminds me of they're supposed to be in kind of like this small town, sort of, kind of a sleepy backwater, but they go to the brothel and it's the most ostentatious palace. Like they didn't even have a tavern in the town, but the brothel is like this top notch. Something you'd see in like the heart of Paris.
Listen,
with like 30 women of the night. All painted up and everything like that. Like, how is this being economically supported?
because when it really comes down to it, it's like you don't need to drink, but you need to fuck. needing to fuck. That's
well, I
very
mean,
important.
yeah, like back in the day, like STDs were running rampant. That's why a lot of them have fake teeth and shit.
Yes, that's like syphilis and all that kind of stuff.
But
that's like why for half of these dudes fighting like a beast demon thing is like the least of their worries. They're like, well, also it was like just killing the women. So was it killing the women that were rejecting him?
So according to what I've read, because it's not clear.
Nothing's clear.
Like
they just keep killing these
people,
white women.
Yeah, some people say like, well, they're leaving up to your imagination, but I don't think this is a film that needs to let you imagine any more than you already are.
Yeah.
They should do a little more, tell you how things are. So apparently, he was working with this priest, bishop, whatever, cardinal, who was a heretic from the Pope, the Holy See. And again, this plot was very murky, very convoluted.
Okay.
And so he was trying to bring France back to God. So they were trying to make people distrust in the king, and therefore having a monster killing maidens would make the king look bad. Somehow.
Okay, so basically
that's what was going on.
That was the plan.
So like
plan. That was literally the
plan. I knew the
like
plan was something about like, all right, we're going to disparage the king. I did
those books they had.
Yeah.
It was basically like, kind of a treatise against royalty, and it precedes the French Revolution and it precedes the American Revolution. So these were very new ideas, and of course the French had to tie it to the French Revolution at the end, with the older version of that young kid, because it's so heavily in their minds, the French Revolution. It's and rightly so. I mean, it changed French society forever. It ended the monarchy. So it ties in with that. I just think it was pretty clunky to have a cardinal think he could bring people back to God. And France was pretty Catholic to begin with. Like it was they weren't drifting away from the church, they're drifting away from the monarchy. So maybe having a monster killing people wouldn't bring them closer to God, I don't think.
So here's a question. So this was set in 1764.
Yeah.
So like this is, the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, all of that is kind of heavily instituted by this point. So it's like we're not really doing the whole separation of church and state thing. I think that if they were going to go with that route, they should have actually dated this earlier.
Yeah.
Like more at a time like Martin Luther and things like that to kind of drive that home to make it make more sense.
Well, they wanted to do it with the actual event, which was a real life event, which is the Beast of Gévaudan.
Yeah.
And that was a real thing that happened, and it terrorized France for a while. And, French have always had this folklore about werewolves. Werewolves have been thick in France. Loup Garou. And
an American Werewolf in Paris. I got you.
Yeah. So, the werewolf legend, werewolves for France are kind of like vampires for Romania. It's something that's been there a long, long time, and they do believe in it. And a lot of the werewolf lore we have comes from France. So when this Beast of Gévaudan happened, it did kind of sort of mirror events lightly in the movie, whereas they brought in a hunter, they found somebody. Like these people were real people in history, like that the main guy, who there was no money. But the main guy was the official taxidermist. So he was sent to investigate. Then the chief hunter, that rapey guy in the bathtub trying to grope the girl with her bodice. And then she doesn't do it. And he just splashes immediately in the tub.
I don't get my way.
There were so many like little things like that there's so many little moments like that kept adding up. Like you're just like, the running time is like, this is so ridiculous. It doesn't need to be this long.
Yes, it didn't. And I think they kind of jumped with timelines a little haphazardly too. It's like all of a sudden we're in winter, and it's like, where's he staying? Like he was on assignment. Does he just sit in that hassle the whole time for months.
Well, so they're like, oh yeah, this thing that leaves for Senegal, for Africa. I know you wanted to go to Africa 6 months, and they're like, okay, and all of a sudden it's like, yep, I'm getting on the ship, leaving for Africa tomorrow. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what happened in all that time?
Yeah,
Like it's those things where you just like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was also tough, like confusing too, when the sister like is like, you're not my brother when you came back from Africa. And he's like, but I love you. Look at my hand. It's all, like it was deformed, but now it's like sort of better, even though he's got those nasty ass nails. I'm like, bro, like use some clippers or something, or scissors, whatever you got. Shears. But my whole thing was, okay, so he got the lion from Africa, brought it back, and like you say, you tortured it and trained it to be in the metal suit. But then, so that's why at the beginning when Iron Chef is doing like the hand readings and stuff, that's why he puts out his hands like, when am I a semi-lion? Because essentially he's like giving out the bad that like it's a lion is the beast. Which doesn't make any sense, because even if a lion is trained, there's no way it could be as agile as this beast was.
Correct.
Like it's like steel. It's like Shaq with the steel outfit on. There's no way he's jumping around that shit.
Oh yeah,
it weighs more than him.
Yeah. If that is your only problem with the film, I say they did okay with things that could.
Oh, I have a lot of problems with the film.
That is the least problematic thing I can think of about that animal. It's how you get those mechanical jaws to close with it and everything like that a lion would allow the suit to be put on.
Yep.
Well, also, how do you how do you train a lion? Well, I guess abuse a lion to the point where the lion's just like, okay, I'm gonna let you put all this metal shit on me.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, you abuse a lion, and then you're just like, yeah, you're gonna do what I say, and then you get close to that lion, and that lion rips you apart.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing, it doesn't make any sense because like you can abuse an animal but for so long, but if that animal is double the size of you, that animal is literally just going to rip you apart as soon as you get close to it.
Siegfried and Roy proved that.
Yep, indeed.
Like it's and the fact that he's got it trained by whistle and things like that, and it comes like a dog. It's fanciful, it's fantasy, and it's meant to be fantasy.
Well, also, I mean, we learned on like Siegfried and Roy, they didn't control that tiger. That motherfucker eventually snapped.
Yeah, I mean, like he was just laying in wait.
Yeah,
he was just laying in wait.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping he would get killed by the lion, but of course they had the traditional showdown where out of nowhere the French dude just starts kicking ass after fucking
and he paints himself like Monty.
After like, Monty gets. I was not expecting that, but I was also like, this is a little bit too late to have these cool action scenes. But even the fight choreography was a little choppy, at parts, and I was like, well, now I'm not like, I have nothing to hold on to now with this.
Like sometimes they do, is it the term wire fu?
Yeah.
Like sometimes they were doing wire fu, and then sometimes they were doing practical, and it's just kind of like they just kind of did whatever they wanted when they wanted, or if they had to do it at that time. I think maybe. It is in no way is this a perfect film, but this is a film I love because I can't watch this film and be on my phone because you will miss something.
Oh yeah, you're gonna miss a lot. You're gonna miss a lot.
You have to put your phone down. And another thing, like I was telling you about, I think we had this conversation maybe at Christmas. Maybe it was you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we talk about like these things would never get made today. And when you ask me like a recommendation, I'm like, all right, this film was crazy. And this film, there's nothing else like this film.
Yeah, this is different. This is its own thing.
It is
for sure.
It's an imperfect, balls out film that I'm pretty sure everyone had a blast making. Like I don't see anyone miserable in this film. They're having probably the time of their life.
Oh yeah.
Mark Dacascos was fucking everybody. You could tell. Like it was like him and Vincent Cassel were like fucking everybody. Because
Vincent Cassel's wife's in this.
Yeah, like Monica Bellucci, right?
Yeah.
She's
gorgeous
smoke show.
Oh
gorgeous.
And
an incredible actress too.
Yes.
I mean, and I think she knew she was in something that She was clearly better than this, but she did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
sometimes you gotta throw your spouse a bone, you know.
Yeah, I don't
But
know
she's
who
like,
I don't
she's
know who
a.
signed who up for that one.
That's
Yeah.
what I was
She-
thinking too. But
yeah.
like, they're essentially like this is like a weird comparison, but they're essentially like the Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise of France
Sure.
Yeah.
in regards to actress, like
No,
actors.
no, that's probably a pretty good. I would say that's not a bad parallel. I would say, that's not bad.
Yeah, because she's won a lot of awards and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
he's been like in a bunch of French hits. They try to make them happen over here in America with the Ocean's 13,
Mhm.
not 13,
Yeah,
Ocean's
that's what it
12,
was.
and what was the other movie? Eastern Promises.
I
But
didn't
not enough
see
people
that.
saw Eastern Promises for
Yeah, I
that to
didn't see
be
that.
like a breakout thing.
Yeah, I think he is as French as Matthew McConaughey is Texans. Like he is so French,
Yes.
and he exalts in being French, and he's
Yeah.
really good at being French. And I think the Ocean's movie really sealed the deal on that. But like, I mean, he effortlessly played a really fucked up Frenchman. And it's like
Yeah.
I would not have recast him. He did a good job for what that role
Yeah, for what
was.
he's asked to do.
He showed up and he did it. So I had no problem with him, but the other people, and Mark Dacascos, it's
so random.
it's so random, it's so everything. Like it's crazy, but he did what he had to do. He was good in it. He was electric. He looked good. He worked well.
I mean, well, he's a good-looking guy.
Very good looking guy, but at the same time, I think I don't want to wax too poetic, but I think he approached the part with a certain sensitivity. Like I think he generally he didn't comment on it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you
As an
know what?
actor, when you're commenting,
I think the thing that like I appreciated is that we didn't get him talking Native American. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like he didn't go stereotypical.
he didn't go Tonto.
Yeah,
Even though the role is Tonto and Lone Ranger.
yeah, 100%,
It's
100%.
Tonto and Lone Ranger. It's French Lone Ranger and Northeast Tonto, and I think it's an homage to that. I think that was intentional. It was not an accidental thing that it was. This was, because they do. It's like kung fu movies. It's a Western. It's French intrigue. It's
fucking
it's a ghost story, monster movie.
It's supposed to be a love story, even though there's like the most romantic, like boring romantic subplot ever. Like
the romantic subplot, unfortunately, did not work for me.
Not at all.
Did not
Not
work.
at all.
In fact, I think he had a lot more chemistry with the Catholic spy who was the chief courtesan. Which, that's another thing. It's like, have you ever actually gone into the Catholic Church? There's no way they would outsource their chief spy to a woman who was a prostitute. Like, it's just not how the Catholics work. I mean,
but you know what? There's something that has to be said. She was a writer because she was obviously a prostitute and she's fucking this dude. And then she goes to the woman and she's just like, hey, that man's in love with you. Don't let him get away. I'm just like, that right there. I wish when I was a piece of shit that there was a woman that would have helped me down that went to the girl that I really wanted and been like, hey, this guy, he's the man you need to be with. Now I fuck him.
Yeah, isn't that after
him.
I was gonna say, isn't that after she stabs him and then licks the knife and says, something to remember me by?
Yes.
What does she do to him? What does she stab?
I'm not sure, but there was that dream sequence he had where she's, kind of naked and has that death's head dagger. And I'm not sure what that's about either. I think they just kind of play with things.
Why did you do this to me, Tom?
What?
Why'd you do this to me?
Why did I do this to you?
Yeah, like what?
I could have picked Heat, and we could have done a podcast that 100 million other people have already done. Like I tried to think of something off the wall, something you'd have opinions on, something you probably haven't seen before, something that's crazy, and we'd have something to talk about.
Well, congratulations, you succeeded. But
Thank you.
I am
Thank you.
furious
Thank
at
you.
you.
Thank you. We can go talk about Heat if you want. Like we can talk about a Tarantino film. Like how many podcasts do you need to hear of somebody talking about Tarantino?
This is true. I
wanted something different, weird, and I do love this film. I love this film. I hadn't seen it in years, and it was a joy to watch it. And boy, does it have problems, but I like that. Like I love perfect films, of course, and there's only a few of them. This is not a perfect film, but this is a film that they gave a shit about, and they tried things, and they had ideas, too many, and they put them up on the screen.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I would
just
have loved to have made this film. I would have had a blast
Mm.
if I was an art department. Even there's like an allusion to Seven, the movie Seven. When he goes into the tombs or the hunting lodge,
Yep.
and he goes into like the inner sanctum, and it's totally like Kevin Spacey's weird ass lair, but as a French aristocratic hunter would have, and they show like the misshapen baby and formaldehyde, and then
I was
all the skulls around and everything.
I was frustrated though a little bit, and I get like you were talking about Monty kind of being like the Tonto of the story and stuff like that. Because for me, it was like, this dude is a badass. We've seen him from the very beginning, like he's wrecking shop, right? And then he gets outnumbered by this gang and then shot in the back, and then that's it. And then the white French dude, after almost being poisoned and surviving, he's now amped up and goes super Nova or Scion on motherfuckers. Like he's the better fighter than Monty. I'm like, what? Like,
well, it wasn't just the shot that brought Monty down, because in the rewatching I noticed something that I didn't notice past
Okay.
times I watched it. So remember there was that and of course they gave him Christ imagery too.
Yeah.
They gave him Christ imagery, which is perfect. So they had him strapped up on like this like cross X thing, and they tortured him after he got shot. So because when
he's thrown
when Fransak goes,
he's mad bloody,
when he's going in, all Jason Bourne style through all those same weird Romani, Celt, whatever they are, he finds that and he touches the manacle, and then he has the flashback of Monty being tortured. And somehow he knows that this happened to Monty. So Monty got shot, that brought him down, but they tortured the hell out of him for whatever reason.
And then they threw him off a cliff.
Then they threw him off the cliff and he rolled down.
Yeah. I was going to say, because
it wasn't just one shot. Like they beat the hell out of him.
Okay,
and he was still alive when they threw him down.
Yeah.
Because he was like reaching out. I keep hitting this. Yeah. He was reaching out to his like wolf totem, which I think that was he had a connection with that wolf, and that was the wolf that they didn't kill in the Roman ruins.
Yeah.
He had a connection with that wolf, and that wolf was helping them. And so like the wolf was almost like this angelic figure,
Yeah.
It was like this white wolf. So it's not hard to make that comparison.
Well, and then like the wolf is just like, it's like, hey, this ain't us, bro.
Right.
It's not us.
Right. And at one point there's a scene where the wolves are chasing the beast, but it looks like the beast is leading a pack of wolves. It's not. They're chasing him. So like the wolves are trying to drive out this unnatural beast. So it's like these wolves are kind of like the angelic spirits of France, and they've killed them. There's a lot going on.
So here's a random question. You guys think that like that pack of wolves could have realistically taken down that big cat?
No,
not with that armor.
Not with the armor.
Well, not with that. Well, not with the armor. Not with the armor. No.
How do you even take that off? Like
you don't.
I think they put it in this, so it's trained, so it goes into this like area where they can get their hands in and do straps and everything from a cage.
Okay.
It's caged, and then they strap it. I guess
it was just covered in spikes. So I was like, and when that motherfucker put his hand in there for the cat to lick his hand, I was like, you were playing with fire, bro. After all you've been through, you're gonna risk losing your hand to this dying lion that knows that you're one of the reasons why he's going out.
Yeah.
So what is the reason that the lion didn't eat the chick? Like when
he smelled brother on her.
Yeah.
Oh.
Remember, she says that before he rapes her, she's like, that beast recognized me from your scent.
Right.
And he's like, now you know my secret. I love you. And I'm gonna take you.
Then I'm bringing out my bone whip sword.
Okay, that was bad shit. When he had that weapon, I was like, "What?" And it broke up and it started swinging. I was like,
I think it's a testament to this film that when you see that fight scene, you don't pause too much and say that couldn't happen, because so much has occurred up to this point that this isn't going to throw you.
Yeah.
Had you done that in the start, you'd be like, okay, this is a different film.
Yes.
All right, whatever. I'm checking.
You know what? But if they would have done it at the start, I kind of would have been like, okay, we're off to the races. We're going somewhere crazy. You know what I'm saying? But when you do it at the end, you're just like, Jesus Christ.
There's this term I have. It's called going to a strip club. Okay. When you go to a strip club, you can't bring your preconceived notions about morality and how things work in the real world into a strip club, because you're going to be uncomfortable and you're making everyone uncomfortable around you. You can't comment on it. You just go with the flow and just be part of it. And it's got its own rules, its own way of doing things, and you just have to be in that area in the way that you're supposed to. There's films like that too. You cannot just, it's like, this film is like going to a strip club. You can't just, have your logic and understanding and morals in this film. You just have to let this film be itself, and you get to watch it.
Yeah, but at strip clubs, at least I usually get some titties and the booty in my face. You
got some titty and booty in the
I didn't like it. I did not like the selections. Monica, she looked great, but even then, they didn't show off her goodies.
How about the scene where the camera is going up her body, and just as it gets to her breasts, it turns into 2 snow-covered mountains of the shot.
That shit was nuts. Also, the slow-mo was crazy. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That girl fell in the pit, and then she's like, and it stops.
I think he saw some Chow Yun Fat and really tried to emulate that, but he didn't have it for the rest of the film. So he picked and choose where to do it. And I think that kind of draw things out of it. Like there was some slowing down, some pausing, some wire fu, that he's definitely a lover and he appreciates Hong Kong cinema. That's evident. But I think the thing with Hong Kong cinema is that's the film. The whole film does that. So you understand how the film is. This is, we're going to throw elements here and there, and I think it's a little jarring.
Yeah. I mean, Christoph Gans, who is the writer and director of this, there's also he was clearly influenced by like Jaws as well, because like the beast horror scenes were very much like reminding me of the opening scene of Jaws, with like you don't see the monster, but the woman, you see her reaction and stuff, and you see the horror in her face. But then it got redundant because that's how all of them kept dying. And so I'm like, when the beast finally came out and started wrecking shop, I was like, okay, cool. But even then, I was like, this thing should literally tear through the whole village. Like there shouldn't be anyone left, because you really can't control this thing.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking tank.
It was controlled by Arm Dude. It was controlled by him.
Well, but he was always drunk and shit, and he didn't know which way was up. He was just like, whoa. And he was clearly the bad guy, like Justin said. He was like, if he had a mustache, he would have twirled it the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, he had that top hat. There was definitely some women tied to the railroad tracks with this guy around.
Yeah, absolutely. But nobody suspects him. Why? Because he's a French aristocrat. They all were just, but then it doesn't really work in the framework, because there were a lot of really decent, good French aristocrats in this film that actually cared about each other and people and the townsfolk and things like that. So it didn't quite jibe up. He was just this terrible, terrible asshole. And even his father knew it. He's like, I apologize for my son. He is an asshole, at the dinner table. But his son actually was right. He's like, no, there's no such fish that has fur. That's it. And everyone's like, I apologize for my son. He is offensive to you. He's like, well, he's actually right. There is no fish like this.
I made it up, guys. He got me.
My name is George Santos. I mean, it's weird because I recognize the poster. I've never seen this movie before, but I recognize the poster because I remember thinking, that looks interesting. Well, I just never got around to this movie. And now that I've seen it, I'm like, okay, like, I get what you were going for. It's not my cup of tea. Maybe in 2001 though, around Lord of the Rings, and when I was really into foreign films, I probably would have dug this a lot more. But now I'm just kind of like, there's some wild stuff that happened in the editing room.
Well, also like there's artistic choices too. For instance, like it's pouring down rain, but the blood stays on; it doesn't wash away. Because he wants the visual effect of that red, that bright red and everything.
Yeah.
But somebody in editing be like, hey, Monsieur, you must understand, in this pouring rain, the blood would, pour away. We would not see it. And he's like smoking a cigarette. He's like, the blood stays. We did not lose the blood. So they had to like put
necessary.
Yeah. So he goes for what looked good over what
practical.
Yeah. And that is a motif that comes back and back and back and back and back.
Would you say that? So have you watched a lot of French films?
I wouldn't say I've watched a lot. I went to NYU and I took a film class there, and I studied Godard.
Okay. So basically, so you have a good idea of like the French styling in their films. So would you say that this is actually a little bit more of just like the French way of filmmaking, as opposed to just being like, this guy's just going ham with this?
I think it's ham. I don't think the French.
Okay.
I don't think the French. This is not a French film. I think this is a Frenchman that loves French film made a film. But I don't think this follows any rules of any genre.
See, because like the thing,
it's a fantasy film.
So the thing about this is like, yes, it is a fantasy film, but it almost felt like this is like a French film, which is a little bit kind of like an American film. You know what I'm saying?
It's a Western.
Yeah.
It's a kung fu. It's Hong Kong. It's a lot of different things.
Yeah. So like it just like it felt like it almost felt like if you just put like Jackie Chan in this film as Monty, and then just and throw in, I don't know, Bruce Willis, as a main guy, like it would be the same kind of movie, but they would add more comedic elements. To tell you the truth, I think if they added more comedy to this, it would have been much better.
Yes. No, it did not have a lot of comedy. You're right.
What's interesting though is I actually like that they played it straight. If they had made it like if Mark Dacascos had started like acting really silly, which I was expecting with those crazy ass eyes, it would have taken me out of it. At least like this fully immersed me in this wacky world that they built. Because if there had been any kind of comedy, I would have been like, well, like I don't know which way is up now.
True. I mean, but they could have done comedy, which was period, kind of like a period piece.
Well, they had dry comedy because Vincent Cassel in that one scene where they're all eating, and he makes a comment, sarcastic comment about, oh, like I'm impressed. Like if I had both my hands, I would applaud or something like that. Like there's like dry humor like that, but like that seems fitting for the time.
I think there's comedy that can work as a pressure valve for tension. And I think that's a very effective usage in horror suspense films, is having some comedic moments that lets the pressure out, because then you can then do a jump cut or something like that to bring it back to because if you always keep the tension, it wanes, so like horror films that are always got you on your edge of your seat, after a while you become inured to it. So I think some comedic things here and there could have given more ebbs and flows, more dips and dives for this film. But if they commented on it, if they were self-referential, like Eddie Murphy looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall, that kind of thing, that would have ruined the film.
Yeah.
Because you do, like the strip club I was saying, you do have to go in with this film full on and just be in this world. But I think, like, for instance, Monty did stick his tongue out at one point during that fight scene. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like he's just like it's almost like I'm having fun.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
But like I kind of feel like I want to say this, this could have been like a Rush Hour. like if they added just a little bit, just enough comedy where like you could play Monty as straight.
Yeah, Monty was not the problem with this film.
Yeah, it was most other people around it. I mean, Monty is a problem. I mean, he's a problem.
I think he's a problem of our times much more than 100%. That time now.
Yeah,
like, and that goes back to the conversation.
I mean, Johnny Depp played Native American man.
Johnny Depp did that 10 years later.
I know.
You could do this right by having an actual indigenous person play this character. There's a ways where you could modernize this and make it like action comedy. I can definitely see that. I just think no studio's willing to pay the kind of money you would need to do to be able to pull off the beast design.
Well, yeah, I agree. Like, this film would never get made again, but if you did do it, it would all be green screen.
Well, that's what brings. I don't think it would be as hard, because if you're gonna make a CGI beast, and especially with today's technology, they'll do it much better. So it'll look a lot better than what we saw on the screen here. And and it's actually going to be rather cheaper than probably what they were doing with this one, because it's just technology.
To just show you bits and pieces for a while too with the beast.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until like the beast looked at her when he was smelling her
Mhm.
brother on her that you're like, that's a lion eye,
Yeah.
or that's a
Yeah.
cat's eye. Like you
But
saw something under the armor. But up until that point, you're like, what the hell is this thing? It's like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
remember,
like this-
guys, we're talking about like the early 2000s. The attention spans aren't there anymore. Like studios want you to get to the action real quick.
yeah,
So
I agree with you. Like
I
this
feel
film
like
would
you
not get
wouldn't-
made again.
yeah,
It
you
would
wouldn't be able to
not.
hide the beast until like at the most you could maybe stretch to 20 minutes, but then you have
Mhm.
to start showing the beast.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and that's just really weird because you know the film business, especially horror films, was predicated on hiding the beast
Mhm.
and you know and giving you just a little bit, which because that does add you know an element of terror of the unknown. You know, that's just human psychology
Well,
and such.
it's Hitchcock.
Yes.
His theory
Mhm.
is there's nothing I could show that's going to be more horrible than when somebody creates their monster in their own mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we talk about Jaws, and the truth of the matter is they were going to show that shark a lot earlier on, but the
Yes.
seawater screwed up the animatronics.
Yeah.
Because they did it in like a pool in LA, shipped it out to Martha's Vineyard. They put it in salt water, and salt water screwed it all up. So they were messing around with this Jaws thing for weeks, so they had to shoot around it. So Spielberg kind of fell ass backwards into doing a Hitchcockian thing and made one of the most brilliant horror films ever by the fact that he had to. It was not his
Yeah.
original intent. Chances are Spielberg would have been a B movie director his whole career had Jaws not have happened. Had this seawater incident not have screwed up his monster, it would have been a very different film. We would have seen Jaws right away,
Yeah.
you know, and it would not have been that interesting as it is because it's much scarier than when it's coming up on the boat and Flint is kicking its face and everything. You look at it, you're like, wow, that's a big shark, but you're not as scared as when that girl's swimming.
Yeah.
When that girl's swimming and you see it, you're the monster's POV. That's terrifying.
Or just to, like she's swimming and all of a sudden she's gone.
Yeah, or
Like
it's going
that's
back
like
and forth like that.
Mhm.
And they totally have an allusion to that. The first kill,
yes.
it's totally an homage to Jaws.
Hold on. But they said she didn't get killed. Didn't they say that there was a woman who was attacked coming from a fair or something like that? And then they said that she was still alive, but she
still died though.
Oh, she still died, but she died later.
Yeah.
She died later. No, that thing was banging her face up against a rock.
I don't think it was the same person because there were a lot of kills up to that point.
True.
Like a lot of because they baited. Was it now? Remember they baited her body with poison and put her in the water.
Yeah.
Was that the same one that was smashed against the rocks?
No.
They all
the
look the
chick who got
same.
smashed up against the rock was all well.
They all look the same. Like that is a weird. Like they all were like blonde, like kind of French, but like one of them I thought sounded Irish. I was like, where are we? Like what's?
Yeah.
But that's just also because I was probably high when I watched. Well, I was hungover when I watched this.
It's
This
the
is not a
best way
good
to
movie
do-
to watch when you're hungover.
It's a great movie to watch while you're high. It only gets better. It's just one of those things, man. So anyway, I can speak on anything else, but I don't have anything else to add other than what I will say is this was like the end of the 90s string of great movies that were out there that were somewhat independent. I mean, I know $29 million isn't independent, but I'm just saying that there are so many. You see it on set, I see it on set, and I see it in the casting. There are so many fingers in the pie now, and so many people have to sign off on the littlest of things that no way could this film be made today. No way.
No.
There'd be
Somebody would stop it.
Somebody would. It'd be filtered down to almost nothing. It would have been severely edited. Roles would have been gone too. It would have just shattered. It would have collapsed because it would have been like pulling a thread on a sweater, and it just would have
just unraveled
it would have
eventually.
unraveled. Yeah, but somehow this film escaped too many people's attention. I mean, it's French, so it didn't operate in the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
Oh.
It really is a huge thing. But in the 90s, they got away with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
believe me, we've reviewed a lot of movies from the 90s on this podcast.
I think the 90s is the last time we I don't want to get too over the top, but I think it's the last time we really had like artistic freedom in filmmaking.
I would say so. Yeah, it's all about
You know,
franchises now.
it's
Yeah.
that's it, and you can't. And when you understand that Hollywood is a business, and they understand it, it's like we want return on every single dollar. We're not going to screw around anymore. And you know, the guys who were, you know, branching out and doing artistic things, some of them do not have track records of being good human beings right now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all we'll say. We don't need to mention their names or anything, but those really good artistic films of the 90s were made in part by Monster. So, you know, we are in a sterile society for good and bad, in many ways good, you know, but those things we're going to get now are going to be done by committee, and we won't have a film like this again.
Do you find that those kind of restrictions come into play in your job? Like when you're like, where you're like, I see this person, this is the right person for the role. And they're like, well, someone is just like, no, I don't see it.
Yes. I mean, I could go at length onto that. But in general, what I'll say is I never make the decision myself. They do listen to me. And I certainly stop a lot of bad decisions from getting to certain eyes. Like I'm kind of like a dam that keeps back a lot of the bad stuff that gets to people. But I mean, almost every job I see people that are great and they don't, you know, one of the, and I'm not just saying it because he's here, but he's one of my favorite actors to have in. And I've told Justin this multiple times, like ever since I worked with Justin, I knew this guy he is a home run hitter on usual, but guaranteed base hit.
So
you know? He's my money ball. He is guaranteed to get a base hit with Justin.
Now, mind you, a lot of the people listening to this podcast, they have seen this film that I did, You Can't Kill Stephen King, and Early Grave and things like that. And they may not think that, but just know that's not on me. I can't. I'm polishing bullshit.
No, you do your job. You do your job.
Well, you know, our fans have had pie in their face when they underestimate us. You know, like we read my scripts, and then I was like, you know, a few months later, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work at Universal, y'all. They're like, what? So don't underestimate us, y'all.
Yeah.
This is an industry professional is telling you that I'm actually good.
He's great. He's great, and he would. So I would usually have him in the first 3 of the day when I used to cast in person. When I cast in person, Justin would be in my top 3. And he always was wondering, like, why I'm always here early in the morning, first thing, you know. But I knew because I'd have everyone would be caffeinated. I'd have all the you know, the director, the producer, sometimes agency there. So it'd be a committee. And so I usually I learned later on to take charge of a casting session and own the term director and casting director. So I'd come in and I'd be nicely, of course, you know, and they'd all go with their big Starbucks and, you know, their sunglasses and tapping away on their phones. I was like, okay. And I'd take charge of the casting and say, listen, this is how we're going to do things. I'm going to bring them in. You've all got your cheat sheets to write things down. What I recommend is we all have a common language, so it's easier for us to grade things. So what I recommend is this: take or leave it. Give them the option to leave it, you know. And I'd say a 5 is a grand slam. All right, we're ready to offer it to them right then and there. 4, we won't offer it then, but 5, we've got our person, you know. 4, excellent. We know we're good with a 4. 4 will be fine. 3 is good. We should keep looking, but 3 would work. 2, no, and 1. Tom, don't ever bring this person in, you know. So that's as easy for them. And then of course everyone does a 3.5, 4.5, whatever, you know. But Justin always got 4s or 5s. Always. I saw the notes. I mean, I have them. I have all the notes. Yeah. And it's Justin and I had a very good communication. Like when I said things to Justin, it clicked right away. And he could do it right then and there. Some actors need a lot of time, and that holds them back in auditions, because usually in the beginning they don't know what they want yet.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know what they want. They don't know who they want. They don't know how they want things to go. I try and talk with the director beforehand to get a uniformity. And then I try and tell the actors beforehand what they're going to need to do. Any readings they have, I try and get them to be off book. A lot of people don't like being off book. Justin had no problem being off book. He has it done, you know, and Justin, you know, got a lot of jobs. So he did well for me.
Well, and, you know, we made each other money.
We
That's
made each other money.
that's
Yeah,
why.
it's not because I like Justin. I do, but it's because I know Justin is going to set the tone and he's going to make them feel relaxed. Because guess what? We got a 4 or a 5 on number 3. The third person of the day, 4 or 5 is right there. We got somebody. So by noon, they'd leave. They'd be like, "You got this, Tom," and they'd leave. And then the people that needed more work, needed multiple takes, things like that. I had the opportunity to do that with them because there weren't a lot of people watching on, so I could do multiple takes with them.
So, we were talking, Christmas at the Christmas party,
Yeah.
about a lot of this stuff, and one of the things that, I think we both spoke about how, like a lot of people, if you're not, if you really don't know the business and understand how that in-person casting, like how valuable that is that you either sink or you swim. You're either a great auditioner or you're a terrible auditioner. It's like, but now everything is gone online. It's all gone virtual.
Yeah.
And so all of those people who swim, in the room, you don't have that opportunity anymore. And like it really hinders your ability to really book work because it's taken like the artistry out of actually getting a role.
Yes. I mean, I 100% agree with that. And what I'll add to that is, I think a lot of younger actors are pretty versatile with platforms like TikTok.
Yeah.
So they're very good at self-taping and doing things like that. And then older actors who don't have as much technical know-how, that are incredible actors, don't, they're getting a little washed away by that. And the takes we're seeing are really good, but I don't know how many times they rehearse that.
Yeah.
But when in the room, they get 2 takes if lucky. And the 2 takes are really good because it shows how they take direction. The most valuable thing is seeing how somebody approaches a role from the start, without any too much direction beforehand, just, basic direction.
Yeah.
Then we call cut. Then the director then gets up and then gives, gives a little change, a little turn of the dial. I want a little bit more of this, a little less of this. Can you try it like this? How about some, approach it from this angle, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you can see how quickly that actor responds to direction. That was invaluable to directors. And that is completely gone with self-tapes. Now I hear they're coming back.
So one thing I've experienced, which I think is amazing, because like it's in every time that I've gotten one of these, I've booked the role. They're doing now like an EcoCast, so like you do like a virtual thing, and then the callback is actually like a Zoom call or something like that. And then they have you do it again, and then they'll give you the notes and things like that and have you do it in the fly.
Yeah.
And like those, I'm just like, yes. Or I've went on a few where it's just like, hey, we want you to do a virtual call, and like that's the first audition, and then they're just like, yep, I know who I want, and then that's it. Yeah. It's like, and that works out great.
It does. It does. And for you in Long Island here, you don't have to come into the city for like a 20-second audition.
Yeah.
Like it, and there was a lot of actors that, and I don't blame them. Once pandemic happened, they went to safer pastures.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they still, it's still a lot of things are cast in New York, but they don't necessarily have to be. So the good thing about self-tapes is I can get an enormous amount of submissions that I can look through and then pick and choose. A lot of times with the old style casting, I didn't know how they were going to be.
Yeah.
So I get 100 submissions. This guy looks good. I don't know. He's going to be, I can look at a reel, but reels don't tell the full story.
Yeah.
So I invite him in and we'll see what you got. For you, I knew you were going to be good. So it's like, I definitely have my batting order.
Yeah.
You're number 4, you're my base hitter or grand slam, so I knew I needed to stack the deck with people that I knew. This way, the good thing is I can really experience a lot of different actors and meet new things. And then if I do have that opportunity, which is a great opportunity that you mentioned of being able to then do Zoom auditions afterwards, that can help out things. So
Yeah.
I think we're getting almost, I guess, to a hybrid system in a way. I don't know if I'll be in the room with people again, which is very unfortunate. Because I like that and you like that. You also get a read on the person.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the
definitely.
thing is like you like, you know, when I walk in the room as an actor, you get a read on the director,
Mhm.
you know, how they want things, and then like you link up to that. It's just like I don't know if you noticed this about me, but like when I went into the casting rooms, you know, if someone's in there before me, I'm kind of hanging close to the door.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm getting some intel.
Absolutely.
Unless you know,
And I
you give
project
me
well.
yeah.
I project well. You could hear me
Yep.
through that door. I project well. So you've heard probably 2 or 3 instructions
Yep.
before I got in. Yes, I did notice that.
So you know, with that, you're like, okay, so this is what they're looking for, such and such. Also, you look at the people in the room and you start to get a gauge of what's going on here.
Could you articulate that a little further?
So all right.
That's interesting to me.
So like sometimes right, I feel like right now we're really like behind baseball.
Yeah, no, it's a
Yeah.
good analogy. It's a good comment. It's a common platform to discuss things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when I walk into a room and I'm seeing all the people that are in the room for this particular role, or like, you know, sometimes you have a little, you know, chat, you're saying to people like, oh, who you reading for such and such, and you're like, okay, this person's reading for the same role. This. All right. There's multiple people coming in for different roles in this. It's like they're looking for this role. Then like, you know, for my role, they're all right. It's not necessarily based off of race for this role.
No,
So then I need to make sure that I'm bringing a certain something, you know, to that role that differentiates, but it doesn't differentiate it by being black. You know what I'm saying? So then you know, if I'm looking at other people in their characters that are coming in, it's like, how do I compliment someone who's this kind of type, you know, in the room, you know, at the same time?
So you're already thinking of chemistry reads and with the other person, how you're going to relate to the other actor in a way?
In a way, yes.
That's extraordinary.
So like I try to put all of this stuff, you know, together, because I'm just like, what can I give them? What kind of different choices could I give them where they'll see like, okay, no matter what comes in, I see this guy fitting into this mold. And like, that's the thing. I feel like going auditioning, it gives you all those opportunities to play the psychology of the casting director, of the director, and things like that. And then you start to put it all together. It's like, all right, the director wants this, and he got this casting director to give him this, you know, and such and such and such. It's like, all right, how do I fit in?
Again, you're one of my favorite actors, and that's extraordinary you say that. But I want to say, like, most actors would, if they went through that thought process, they would be so jumbled up by the time they got in their room that they would flop. Like the fact that you can do all that and then still have such a clear, like a crystal clear performance and vision speaks highly to you.
But I'm an improv guy.
That was exactly what I was going to ask. It was like, how much of your improv training is that?
Yeah, improv guy. So it's like, yeah, I'm getting all this information. It's like, okay, and then go in there and then just be like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, improv. That's what I say to all actors. Every director wants to see it. Every producer wants to see it. You know, they want to see that UCB, what level, Pitt. They want to see those two because the only two they're not. It's not the only people that teach improv, of course. But that's what they want to see on resumes. Whenever actors wonder if resumes make any difference. They do, in terms of they look for improv, and they also look to see if you have any of their projects or people they know on it.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, for instance, if I brought you in for somebody and they cast you in something and you didn't have it on it, they'd be a little pissed. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, things like that. They like, there's an ego with directors.
Yeah.
And they love seeing that, you know, a project that you were on of theirs is on somebody's resume. So resumes do make a difference in those two regards, I find.
So
improv.
So I'd love to talk about like you know, again, we spoke about it at the time. We were talking about like, you know, how do you actually play like people of color within the business? Because we talk about it on the podcast all the time, Brandon and I, and just how like like I look at castings, I'll see, you know, 80% is like, I'm not there, you know, I'm not even in the running for.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, you know, most of the stuff is like, It's like we're looking for white da 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 da, and then like one role on like a 13 page casting is just like looking for a black character and such and such and does this, and he drinks 40s outside. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we're pretty limited in what we see there's out there on the casting site.
All of my castings are people of color, all of them, everyone. I can't remember the last time I cast a Caucasian. I can't remember the last time. It's certainly not during pandemic. It's all people of color, African American, and they get and what I do is, so like I would say my job is very racist in order to not be racist.
This is it right here. Go ahead.
There are conversations that I would never have in email because they could be misconstrued. So what I'll do is I'll get on the phone with somebody and then talk about exactly what they're looking for and things like that. And then I will get some verbiage from a director, producer, whoever, client, and then I'll look at it and then I'll clean it up so it's not offensive in any way, because we're in a very sterile, justifiably, I mean, there's been some bad things, so we're trying to be better as a society, and I get that. So I'm not saying anything, oh, it's too woke or anything like that. No, we should try and be inclusive and have terminology that's not offensive to people. So I'll clean up things to make it seem a little less problematic, but in a way we're trying to not be racist, but I'm literally looking for people for their race.
Yeah.
Specifically for not being racist. Like we need this many people of color, this many Latinos, and then on casting networks they've got them as Latinx. And I know that's almost a step too far, because from the vast majority of Latinos I've spoken to, they find that term offensive. Like that seems to be a term that came up with some white guys in Park Slope. That term. No Latin people like that term. Apparently, like Spanish language has masculine and feminine pronouns. To take that out is offensive. Like that's how it is. So I think it was a good intention that went too far, and casting networks has that terminology. So there's nothing I can do about it, because that's a literal
a thing now.
It's a little box I have to click. I have to click that box, There's a lot of non-binary language now. I try and stay away from getting too far into it. It's just basically, you tell me what you want, I'll go get you what you want. So it's become, and years ago it wasn't like that. They kind of just wanted to see people, or they wanted to see things. Now, because I do a lot of commercials and corporate stuff, so the corporations really want to have very good representation for a variety of people in order to sell their products to a variety of people. So it's coming from a good place. But in regards of doing that, I'm basically a headhunter for certain races. Like that's what it is. It's not so much as show me the best actors who interpret this opening a can of tuna the best. It's I want Justin Brown to open a can of tuna. Or somebody that looks like Justin Brown, that kind of thing.
Well, I also find it hilarious that now you're looking at castings just like, I want such and such a famous actor type.
Oh yeah,
and like
that's always been there though.
I mean, but it's also, but on our end, we're seeing it more. We're seeing it more like in the castings now.
I try not to do that because I find that limiting.
Exactly.
Because as an actor, I think, because I always think of, you know me, and I'll just say this for your viewers, your listeners, is I try, and I'm a casting director that thinks of the actor a lot and how the actor thinks and what makes the actor comfortable so the actor can do their best job. I think if I were to say I need a Denzel type, a lot of people will be like, I can't be Denzel, and no one can be Denzel. Denzel is Denzel. So I mean,
or somebody's gonna come in.
Honestly, exactly. I don't want to meet anyone who thinks they're Denzel. Like, it's like, oh God, I got to deal with this guy. He thinks he's Denzel. So I try and stay away from things like that, but I will do archetypes. Adjectives like ruggedly handsome, or like, grew up in a tough family environment. You don't want to say from the streets, You don't want to do that anymore. But I get that. Like I'll say, it's like this guy's from the streets, and I'll be like, Wire ended years ago, guys. We're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna clean up that language as much as I can, but still try and convey what they're looking.
Yeah.
You know, but I think if it's like if I'm looking for a Clint Eastwood type, you know, how's that do anybody any good? You know, people are gonna be like,
it was like, I'm also not fucking 100 years old.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You know, so you know, I try not to list that, but I'm amazed that's still happening.
Yeah.
Can you tell when it comes to verbiage on breakdowns? Can you tell if it's written by a professional casting director versus a student director doing their passion? Isn't that amazing how they will write something? And God bless them, they're trying to do their own thing. I get it. You know, I'm not trying to be mean to them, but the way they will say something, especially with women roles.
Oh yeah, they're wild.
Oh my God,
Brandon, you should see some of like I need a, you know, we're looking for someone who's busty this and like they're very particular on a woman's body.
Busty hooker who's a junkie but still has a heart of gold.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But you know, it's also, you can tell when someone's writing it from you know, is a professional casting director as opposed to like corporate. A corporate person is writing it and things like that. So like it's
I've cleaned up corporate language before.
Yeah, well, no corporate language, I think, is sometimes they can be worse than the student.
Yeah. I have a theory that I think some of the jobs I've done have been so inclusive in order to have corporations, and I'm definitely not going to name names. But I think certain corporations want to have some ammunition for inevitably when some middle level management guy gets drunk and tweets something horrible out there, and then everyone's like, we gotta you know, boycott this company now, and then the corporation's like, wait a minute, we just did an ad for this. You know, it's like, I almost think, because I'm almost like, these ads, you know, like I don't know. I'm happy for the work, and I'm happy the actors are getting jobs, and I'm happy the producers and everything, but I also wonder, like, who's this for at one point?
A lot of them industrials, so they're using that internally and things like that, which is also its own weird thing.
Industrials, like, I don't mind industrials at all, because
I don't mind them, and you do get a nice rate on them.
Yeah.
But the downside is like, hey, can I get that footage? And you're never gonna get it.
Never gonna get it. No, you're not gonna get most footage. And in fact, like they don't even give me. They used to give me commercials all the time, so I could download them from my website. I don't even get those commercials. I have to be on TikTok or Instagram,
and hopefully
hopefully comes up, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's it is different. And that's where student films are good, or webisodes and things like that, because you can get written in your terrible pay in the contract. I want footage.
Yeah.
You know? And hopefully
if they'll finish the film, then you can actually get it and put it towards your reel. But half the time it's just like, I have all of this stuff that I've done, and you have nothing to show for it. And it's like, hey, well, you have this working. I see it. Like, you can't, because I can't either.
So are student films not getting finished?
No,
really, because isn't that how they graduate? Like, I don't understand that.
People switch majors.
Really? So they've spent $100,000 of daddy, uncle, whoever's money.
I did a film, and you know, I was like the fight coordinator on it, and we did like a bunch of fights, and I got hurt on that thing, the whole thing, and the guy never finished the film. Never saw the light of day.
Film for like a thesis.
Yeah, never saw it, and I was so mad. I'm just like, and I did great work on that thing. Never saw it.
Oh, I don't understand that. Thank you. I don't understand. Just finish it.
Yeah, it's wild.
Just finish. Did he not finish due to money, or did he literally change his major?
I don't know. I randomly ran into one of the other guys, and he's like, yeah, he never finished it. I'm just like, fuck that guy. But let's rate this movie. Let's wrap this up.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in hearing what you guys think about it in terms of the rating. So I know you didn't like it too much.
So we rate movies actually bags of popcorn. Small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional.
Okay.
If a film doesn't deserve any popcorn, we throw it into the dog shit pile, or we pile piles and piles of dog shit on top of it.
Okay.
So we sat down, we watched Brotherhood of the Wolf, a 2001 French period action horror film starring Samuel L. Bilan, Vincent Cassel, Mark the Costco. So I don't know how
I thought you were about to say Samuel Jackson. I was like, did I watch the wrong fucking movie?
The Costco, yeah.
So Tom, what say you, sir?
Well, I would say it's definitely, for me, it's a large, but it's a guilty pleasure. And it's when I saw the film, who I was when I saw the film.
Okay.
And it was nice to revisit it. I recognize much more problems now than there were beforehand. And every criticism about this film is absolutely valid. But at the end of the day, it is a popcorn film. It does entertain. You know, like it's not a film you want to turn off. You do kind of want to figure out where are they going. So I give it a large, not an XL. XL, that's a perfect film.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect film. I don't know if it could ever be a perfect film.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'll give it a small, just because as boring as I thought it was a lot of the time, especially with a 142-minute runtime, I was intrigued as to where this was going. It definitely ended up where I did not expect.
Yeah.
Especially with the lion and the metal suit and shit. I was just like, this is bonkers. But some of the performances really, really bad. And then Vincent Cassell was at 100 the whole time. So it's like the lead was like the least charismatic.
Yes.
Like had no screen presence. So much so that I barely know his character's name. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it didn't, at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. It was just kind of a kerfuffle. But at the same time, I did watch the whole thing without pausing.
Yeah.
So especially hungover, I think that's a
I think if you were high,
it
you would have had a greater appreciation for this film.
Yeah, because you have to laugh during this.
Yeah, like you have to laugh with the film.
Yeah,
you know,
that's fair. That's fair, but a small on my end.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm giving it a small as well.
Right on.
I think that I you know what, the fact that everyone is saying is like, I was wondering where this is going and you couldn't keep your, like, I think that pretty much sums up the film.
Yeah.
Because like, you're just watching and just like, wait, what the fuck is happening here? Wait, what? Okay, wait a second. And like, I felt myself doing that more and more. And which is weird because it's the deeper you get into the film, the more questions that come around and they're not answered. So it's kind of fun to watch it because you're just like, there's a new exploratory moment like every like 10 minutes.
All right, you got the wiki open, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so go to where Roger Ebert his review and read Roger Ebert's review, and I think that kind of sums up my feelings on the film.
Okay, so I would be lying if I did not admit that this is all in its absurd and overheated way entertaining. Yep, that's pretty much
absurd.
about it.
The film is absurd and it's over the top, but it does its job. You know, you are entertained. Like, there's so many films that I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna watch this anymore. I know where this is going.
Yeah,
I don't need this. I know I've seen this film before. That's not this film.
Definitely not cookie cutter. I give it that. It's definitely not cookie cutter. It's different.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So Tom, tell the people how can they follow you. Tell the people where they can find you.
You can definitely. My company is Tempest Casting on Facebook. I post all of my breakdowns there first. If you're looking for actor, if you're an actor looking to get onto projects, but I primarily post, as Tempest Casting or my name, Tom O'Hare, on casting networks. That tends to be the site I use most. I still use Actors Access from time to time, but overall, I've pretty much migrated solely to casting networks. That's really the site that I utilize the most for my castings.
There's no Actors Access. They've gotten a lot better.
Have they?
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better. They actually built an app and everything, which is actually workable. No.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, I think what happened to me with Actors Access is they demanded a credit on a film, and I'm like, I'm lucky if I get a credit. So I can't demand credits for you. I can't in good faith say, okay, yeah, I'll get you a credit, because I can't do that myself. And I'm like, you're asking a little too much of the casting director.
Yeah.
And Casting Networks is not asking a lot of it.
Gotcha.
And they're helping me, whereas it looks like you're putting up roadblocks for me.
Gotcha.
I still will use them from time to time, and I'm not telling people not to use them. But for me, from a business standpoint, for the castings I do, it's a lot faster and more ease of use with casting now. So, But it's good to hear that they're getting better with things, because I know there was some frustrated people with Actors Access.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brandon?
Folks, you can follow me at American Collins, AmericanCollins.com. You can follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Medium Popcorn. Push that subscribe button so you get alert about all future episodes, celebrity interviews, and just other buttery goodness. And Justin, if people want to support the show financially as well as follow you, what can they do?
Well, guys, you can follow me at J Brown Did It on the socials, but you can support this show on patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages with so much content. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, we have The Rant. What am I watching? We have so many bonus episodes. Our entire backlog from all our past episodes go on the Patreon. So if you're looking for an episode that you loved, or you're just wondering if we review the movie, check Patreon. That's where you can actually find it. And please, guys, leave us a voicemail at 347-508-0978.
Yes, indeedy. Feed the needy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us for this episode.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me on. If you want to do this again sometime, just let me know. This was a pleasure.
We're definitely not going to do a French film. All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.